Welcome to Ask GC Anything.
Coming up this week, how you can improve your time trialling, how high intensity intervals will improve your performance, and I know that only too well myself with recent experiences, and also the best upgrade to make your bike lighter.
Yes, and if you want to get involved on next week's show, then remember to use the hashtag Torqueback and put them in the comment section below. And if you want to win 3 months of free subscription from our mates over at Zwift, then to use the hashtag askgcntraining for your training specific questions.
Right, let's crack on with the first question from this week, which comes in from 247MS1. Hi guys, inspired by today's awesome rad race video, and that was a cracking video,
Thanks,
I
Dan.
have to admit, Hank. And looking at the different bikes used on GCN Tech, I've been looking to get a fixed wheel bike. However, I was wondering what makes one fixed wheel bike better than another, and where should I put my money?
Well, the beauty of fixed gear bikes is there's really not much to them. So looking at your frame and putting money there is probably your best bet. If you're really serious, then you can go for a carbon frame, but alloy is also just fine. And I raced the alloy, the Schindelhauer, in the rad race, and it did me, well, pretty good.
Yeah, I think you enjoyed riding both.
I did,
you?
yeah.
As Hank points out, the beauty of them is their simplicity, and therefore you really don't need to spend much money to get a decent fixed wheel bike. The main things to look out for then are the fit, make sure you're in the right position, and also the gearing. I mean, you can select different gears and have them back at your garage to put on for whatever event you want. Only beyond that, when you get more serious, might you want to start thinking about upgrading to aero wheels or aero frames, but they're really not necessary.
And if others of you out there who are looking at fixed gear bikes, then why don't you check out the tech video I did at the rad race, and you can see a wide variety of different bikes out there. I managed to get my hands on one of the Canyon Radpack team bikes. This is actually the test bike of the V-Rad, and he's got some mountain bike bars. They're 700 width. He's got for some Shimano SPD mountain bike pedals, 165 cranks, a 48 gear, Vittoria 25 width tyres on DT Swiss rims, and it's aluminium.
Looking at that video briefly again, Hank, I think possibly the biggest upgrade you can make to a fixed gear bike is spending some money on an amazing paint job. Those are the coolest things, aren't they?
Oh mate, you have never seen so many custom paint jobs than on a fixed gear race.
It's all about being cool, isn't it, fixed gear stuff, which is probably why I've never done very much of it. Right, what's next?
Next up, we've got a question from the gaming entity. Is 14:30 a good time for a 10-kilometre time trial? I'm 16, and the other times are usually from 30 minutes to 20 minutes. There is
a gap between the I and the S there.
And is there a way I could improve my TT? Well, there is, but that is a great time. And remember, you are only 16. You've got a long way to go to improve on your fitness and on loads of other things that Dan's going to explain now.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing about time trialing is, of course, aerodynamics. And that doesn't need to be anything about equipment, because the biggest difference to aerodynamics is your own position on the bike. So you could seek advice from local riders or your local bike shop on how to make that better. I always say to people of your age, you shouldn't be worrying too much about what those around you are doing, because at 16 especially, there's all sorts of different levels of development, and other people might be towards their ceiling and you might only just be getting started. So concentrate just on your own performance, and you'll get better over the years, I'm sure. Also, hard to say whether 14:30 is a good time for 10k time trial when we don't know whether it's flat, how windy it is, etc.
Loads of variables, isn't there? Yeah, but I think as you get older, you do start to change your position, and as you change your body shape. So yeah, you will keep getting better. So just keep in there, hang in there.
And pacing. Make sure that you're doing even power as much as possible throughout.
I was terrible at pacing.
You ready to find out who's won 3 free-month subscription to Zwift?
Yes, the winner is Ash Thomas. So well done to you. You got 3 months free subscription winging its way right to you for this question.
Yes, the question is, I am looking for some training advice. There's a climb that is 1.2 miles long with an average gradient of 10.9% locally to me, and I would like to get up it faster. Any tips?
Oh, it sounds like an effort we just did.
It does, yeah. We had a 2.2k KOM challenge, which is just under 1.4 miles. Unfortunately, I started a minute in front of Hank and then finished about 30 seconds behind him. Anyway.
But you're getting stronger, mate, so hang in there. Actually, this session would help you.
Faint praise, that is, isn't it? I might have caught you and dropped you, but you're getting better, mate. Keep it going. You'll get there one day.
But what you would want to do is repeat efforts of around 4 to 8 minutes long, and you're looking for a workload of around 20 to 25 minutes. And this will really help you target that VO2 session, which is the component of training that you're trying to improve.
Yeah, make sure you have an equal amount of rest between each of those intervals so that you're reasonably rested for the start of the next one. You could try doing that once per week for a few weeks and you'll see some improvements there. Also, within each of those weeks, you could have an even more intense session where you're doing 30-second flat-out intervals, but again, a longer recovery between them of around 5 minutes because they're going to take it out of you. It's a really interesting one, this, because you need to push your ceiling up to get better at an effort that's about 5 or 6 minutes long, but at the same time, you can also try pushing it up from the bottom. As in, if you can raise your FTP from the point it is now to the point where the power you've got at 5 minutes is now what you can do for an hour, then of course what you can do for 5 minutes is also going to go up. So it's catch-22, but if you've not got loads of time, work on the top end and you should see those times getting better.
Yes, and as always, we send this question off to Zwift and they come back with a session that would help you. So check out this session on screen now. Question in from Jamna. I know you're often recommending interval training. Well, yes, that's very true, we are. As most efficient way to get stronger and fitter. However, I most like to do longer rides, 3 hours plus, with a bit of everything, mountains, flats, and without paying particular attention regarding what would be the most beneficial training-wise. I just enjoy that type of riding. My question is, what am I missing out on?
Well, in terms of what intervals can do for you, the proof of that is sat right here, really. I did 10 weeks of just 4 hours a week, almost exclusively doing intervals with Sufferfest, and ended up getting a lot stronger. Some people said that was down to the fact that it's muscle memory because I was stronger before and as a full-time athlete, but lots of the people doing the Plan with Dan also experienced gains of 10 to 20% over the course of that 10 weeks. So there's absolutely no doubt that even doing short rides with intervals in is going to make you fitter, stronger and faster. That said, the thing I'm going to focus on your question is that I mostly do 3-hour rides or longer. I just enjoy that type of riding. So in doing intervals, you might end up missing out on what you most enjoy about riding a bike at the moment. And also the fact that you currently do mountains, flats and other terrain might mean you're kind of doing intervals without even realising it out on your ride. So unless you really, really want to get fitter, I wouldn't worry too much. Next up, we have this from Benjamin Aspin. I'm just starting to ramp up my training for the start of the race season, commute, should I say, by bike every day. However, every time I ride my bike, my commuter or road bike, I get cramp on my lower inside quad just above the knee, but definitely not the knee. It also gets worse when I climb out the saddle. Is there a bike fit issue or a muscular imbalance, or is it both? Any help, much appreciated. Great
question, and I think we get loads in on knee problems because they are quite a common problem when you're on a bike. I personally have had a knee issue, and it's all stemmed from, you know, where my cleat position, my stack under my pedal, so it can be a whole load of different things. It sounds like it's your vastus lateralis. Yeah, do you like my pronunciation on that? But yes, so it sounds like that's the muscle that is going to cause you pain. And that's actually the muscle that is holding your kneecap in place. So it's basically stabilizing your knee, and it also helps for the extension of your knee also. So it's something like stretching and looking at all the different components, like starting from your shoe, your cleat, and your body position on the bike. Should really help.
Stretching and strengthening in all areas of your body, really, because even though you might have the pain in your knee or somebody else in their Achilles or somebody else in their back, it might not necessarily stem from exactly where you're experiencing the pain. It could be from somewhere completely different. So it's hard for us to sit here as non-medics and also not seeing you to say exactly what's going on there. So I'd firstly, before you go to a bike fitter, recommend going to see a good physio or chiro and trying to find out where the issue's coming from in the first place.
Yes, and actually Dan did a video a couple of years back.
Blimey, about 5, as you just pointed out before we started filming this.
On how to avoid knee pain. So why don't you check out that video now?
Yeah, Hank says it's due an update, but you might still find some pointers in there.
Knee pain is something which you should take very seriously indeed. In fact, if you're experiencing a lot of pain, then we recommend going to see somebody for some professional help, particularly if you're starting to feel it off the bike as well as on it.
First place you should start is by looking at your saddle height and position. Now, get it too high or too low, and you'll be putting considerable extra strain on your knees. Now, I talked to a fellow cyclist, and with one look, they should be able to tell you if there are any glaring errors in your position. But you can, of course, do it yourself as well.
Next up, this one from Jorge Garcia Ibanez. I'm going to the Pyrenees next July to see the Tour de France with a friend, and we're going to take our bikes to climb some mountains. The thing is that my friend is quite strong because he trains for amateur races, but I'm quite an average rider. Any tips on how to complete those climbs and not die in the attempt?
Right, pacing is your ultimate tool.
Yeah, don't try to keep up with him to start with.
Do not blow too early. So ride within yourself and keep yourself at a constant pace that you can sustain for the longevity of that climb.
Yeah.
So yeah, not going into the red basically.
I know you said that you're taking your own bikes out, but the alternative is that if you want to ride with your better friend, you could go and hire an e-bike. And I'm being serious here, like that is what e-bikes are good for in my opinion. It allows you to ride with people that are at a higher level than you, or if you're at a high level, someone else having an e-bike allows you to ride with them even though they're at a lower level than you.
Is that why you ride with me when you're on an e-bike?
All right, stop putting the knife in here. Blimey, I'm not going to do another RT anything. Anyway, there's no harm in that. But on the other side of things, I'm sure you want to accomplish and get to the top off your own impetus, in which case, as Hank says, it's just about pacing it on the way up, not trying to stick with your friend from the gun at all, and just getting to the top off your own back.
It's actually what Opie was really good at. When we were on training camps, he used to stick to a certain power that he knew he could sustain, and me, on the other hand, went full gas from the go, and he ended up passing me halfway on the climb.
Yeah, pacing is everything.
Yeah. We got a question in from Andreas Carlson, 10. I'm trying to get down to my race weight, but I've noticed a significant drop in power over the last few weeks. Since January, I've gone from 70 kilograms to 63 kilograms. Wow, that is a lot.
Yeah.
Now I want to lose another 2.4 kilograms of fat. My resting heart rate has also dropped from 58 BPM to 48 BPM, and now I really struggle to even reach my threshold heart rate. Is there anything I can do to prevent this? I eat around 200 grams plus of protein a day and 60 grams of carbs on the 2 meals before my workout. Wow.
7 kilograms of body weight in the space of 10 weeks is a huge amount, and that kind of weight loss is just not sustainable.
No.
So firstly, I would say just be very careful what you're doing, especially given the symptoms that you've just said about not being able to get your heart rate up and losing power. You want to do this slowly so that it stays off and so that you don't reduce how much power you're able to put out. So go very careful on this one.
Yeah, crash dieting, it can be quite dangerous. So I would, like Dan said, just go careful with it and monitor with a doctor or someone who actually knows.
I'd definitely firstly concentrate on making sure you start to feel better on the current weight that you've got to before you start thinking about losing another 2.4 kilos of fat. Otherwise, things are going to go belly up fairly quickly. Your resting heart rate though, that can be a good indicator that you're getting fitter. Generally my resting heart rate comes down the fitter I've got, as long as I'm measuring it on a day that I'm not particularly fatigued. But again, it's different for different people. And to reiterate, I'd just go very careful at the moment.
Yeah, and on the 60 to 80 grams of carbohydrate, that is not a lot. So maybe increasing that and then increasing your workload, maybe balance that out. But yeah, looking at how much food you eat and the types of food you eat is also going to really be important.
At the end of the day, power to weight is hugely important at the very top end of the sport, but power is also always key, isn't it? You don't want to lose that, so you need to go back to the drawing board, I would suggest, and get the power back that you had, even if it means putting a little bit of weight back on before you start to steadily try to lose weight again. Right, next up, that was definitely not a quick fire round, that one, was it?
No, sorry.
Rory Verial Harris. Hi, GCN, sorry for my bad English. I like cycling very much, and I am a complete newbie about cycling. Here's the issue: can I use GCN cycling tips on my hardtail mountain bike, because it's the only bike I have, and I want to enjoy my cycling more around the city? Short answer: absolutely. Like here at GCN, we're all about having fun on the bike. We do try not to be elitist, even though we're very privileged to have an amazing kit sponsor: helmet, shoes, glasses, bikes, etc. I know we kind of look elitist sometimes, but we're all about getting people out on bikes and having fun. And we had a massive array of fitness levels and experience levels over in Mallorca, but I think and I hope everybody enjoyed riding their bike over there.
Yeah, absolutely, and second that actually, because you've all got to start somewhere. So Dan and I, we both started on old mountain bikes, hardtails. And that's where you just go out and enjoy your bike, and when you get better, and hopefully if you earn a bit more money, then you can invest in a better bike and better kit. But ultimately, our how-tos and what we do, it does cross over for all levels and all different types of
bikes. Yeah, all the training advice, you can go and do the same intervals, and as you said, you might want to upgrade to a road bike. What I did was got some slick tyres for my mountain bike when I wanted to go out road riding more. So yeah, don't worry about the bike that you've got. Kathy Williams got a question for askgcntraining. I've been doing a nice variety of workouts on Zwift through the winter, and every time I'm about to get started, I have to decide whether to do the work in erg mode or not. I almost always do well hitting my targets regardless of whether I'm in erg mode or not, but for some reason, in that mode, it feels much harder. My question is, why does that? Why is that the case?
Right, on erg modes, it does feel a little strange when you get on it, but what you can do is anticipate the effort. So maybe raising your cadence and getting ready before the turbo kicks in. That should help smooth the transition from going at, say, 230 watts to 260 watts.
Yeah, well, we should probably explain what erg mode is to those of you who haven't got a smart trainer. So effectively, if your training program from Zwift says to you that you need to stick at 250 watts for 5 minutes, whatever your gear you're in, when you start that interval, it will ensure that you are doing 250 watts no matter what your cadence. So if you start at 70 and you decide you want to be 90, it will reduce the resistance so the power remains the same, even if the force that's going through the pedals changes slightly. So many people do find it easy because it kind of takes the thinking out of
You
staying.
definitely don't need to think, you just pedal, don't you?
You do,
yeah.
But on the other hand, if you're having a bad day, it makes it very hard, doesn't it? Because on level mode, which is the alternative, where you choose the gear and your intensity is fairly level and you just have to choose the gear to get the right power, you can drop things down if you're not on a good day and still get a decent interval done. But it can be depressing if the turbo trainer is trying to make you do the power that you can't do on a particular day. It's our final question on Ask GCN Anything this week. It comes in from Den I Am. I'd like to know why the pros don't ride aero bikes in pro races. I ride a Trek SL6 Pro and their bike looks similar in style to my bike.
Right, good question, but some pros do and some pros don't. It's basically down to rider preference. If the sponsor who's sponsoring the team and the supplier of the bikes has an aero bike in their roster, then they do have the option to use them. But if they're kind of used to the more traditional geometry style, then yeah, it's basically what the rider is comfortable with. Like Valverde, for example, he likes a traditional style bike, and that's why he rides the Ultimate instead of the Canyon Aero.
Well, it's a traditional sport, isn't it? And I know that lots of aerodynamics gurus and engineers that work for the manufacturers that supply the teams come up against a lot of resistance when trying to persuade the older generation of riders to use aerodynamic gear. In general, in almost every situation, it is better to be aero than lose a few grams. But to give you a personal example, Carlos Sastre, for example, back in the days, I won't mention that, he refused to use anything deeper than a 202, which is the shallowest rim from Zip on a climbing stage. And it wasn't because of the aero side or the lightweight side. He preferred the way it handled down descents. It was a bit more nimble, whereas on the 303s or 404s, he would find it a little bit harder to turn and not be quite so confident. So that comes into it as well. But I think what you will see as the generations progress and there's more knowledge within the peloton from the internet, etc., is that almost every rider will go for the most aero component on every part of the bike.
Yeah, that's it. And that's a great question to end on. And I'm afraid it is the end of this week's Ask GC Anything. If you'd like to get involved on next week's show, then to use the hashtag
Torqueback.
And if you'd like to win 3 months free subscription from Zwift, what is the hashtag used?
Ask GCN Anything.
Yeah, and put them in the comment section below.
Or if you think of a question whilst you're out and about, then use the hashtag Talkback on social media and we'll look through those too. I'm now going to hand back over to Hank's video from the Rad Race, because if you haven't already seen it, it is rad, isn't it? In more ways,
I surprised
than
myself.
one. Oh, sorry, it's down here.
Somewhere.